Hi, this is Derek Triplett. Let's talk about dating over 60. My mom is technically a senior citizen and she's single, and this is not an advertisement because I really don't want her to date. That's probably why she doesn't have a mate right now. But in all seriousness, once you turn a certain age, and it doesn't even have to be a senior citizen, you get stuck in your ways. And I've talked to so many people who said, I'm good and grown. I'm good and grown. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I'm not putting up with that. Please understand, whenever two people come together, there are going to be some adjustments. There's going to be some compromise. There's going to be some negotiation. And so if you are set in your ways, you're over 60, but you want a companionship, but you really want somebody to join in on the parade that you've already set, guess what? That's not going to work. So either you want to be alone or you want to do the negotiation and the compromise that it takes to be in a solid relationship. So guess what? You're going to have to make some adjustments. You're going to have to be willing to do some give and take. And it's worth it, because at the end of the day, if you really want to be in a relationship, you have to ask yourself, do I want my relationship, or do I want to be in charge? If I want to be in charge of everything, then I may not need to get in a relationship. So I know you're stuck in your ways, and I know you want it your way, but that's just not how relationships work. So open up, adjust, negotiate, compromise, so that you don't have to be alone, especially when you don't want to. Why are so many people hurting so badly? Make the relationship more important than the issue. Do you add value to the person that you're connected with? My name is Derek Triplett. This is Better Relationships, and guess what? It gets better from here. Welcome to Better Relationships. My name is Derek Triplett. Do you remember what dating in high school was like? Some people were awkward, some people were smooth. How about dating in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s? I'm sure you've got some stories to tell and some stories you don't want to tell. But what about those who are over 60 and single, still looking for relationships and dating? That's what we're going to talk about. Dating over 60, the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, the AARP discounts gotta be a plus. When you come back, that's what we're going to talk about. Dating over 60s on Better Relationships. What's dating like for a successful man over 60?
Interesting.
In what way?
In that you are now more cognizant of what it is you're needing, and so you're not accepting less than what is necessary for more growth and expansion and a lot of love.
Tell me about the last good date.
If a woman calls me up and asks me out, then she's taking me on a date.
Right. And there's some dynamics to that.
There's dynamics to that. But if you call me to take me out, but expect me to pay for the date.
You didn't ask for the date.
I didn't ask for the date, that's a problem.
Welcome back to Better Relationships. I'm Derek Triplett. Today we're talking about dating over 60, and I'm pleased to have as our guest director and founder of the Fresh Book Festival. There's so many things we could talk to her about, but today we're going to talk to her about her dating life. Welcome to Donna Banks.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now
I get to keep the cup.
You get to keep the cup.
Good.
Better
Yay.
Relationships with Derek Triplett. You're
Okay.
over 60.
I am.
That's surprising. That
You
is
were.
surprising. I was surprised when you told
were.
me that. But
You
you're
were.
also single. Tell me a little bit about how that happened. Were you married before? Talk a little bit about that.
So I was married 20 years, and I married a gentleman that we grew up together in the same hood. We went to the same church. My grandmother taught us, in church. And I think 20 years later, we looked at each other and said, boy, I'm so tired of looking at you.
Okay.
It was just a long time.
Grew apart?
Grew apart, and grew apart, and just, it was a long time.
Okay.
I mean, we knew each other from childhood, and so we were business partners together.
Okay.
We were in business together. And I don't know about anyone else, but when you're in business with your spouse, that's hard.
That's seeing them a lot. So you went from childhood to 20 years of marriage, seeing each other all the time.
And then being in business together for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And so the dynamic kind of changes. And at the point where I always wanted him, because we came from humble beginnings.
Okay.
Right? So I always wanted him to have whatever it is that he wanted and needed. Because, life is short.
Okay.
And so when he said, I want to be an entrepreneur, I said, okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. But I have a hard time taking a backseat to almost anything.
Okay.
Right? And so, for 10 years, I was the person behind the scenes kind of making it happen. And sometimes gentlemen decide that they're at a higher place and they make not right choices, right?
Okay.
And so I guess they forget that the person that brought you to the dance, my father used to always say,
dance with the one who, I remember it.
Right. Make sure you go home with the person who brought you to the dance. And so he forgot who he was dancing with.
So how long since the divorce?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
So 10 years single.
Right.
Entrepreneur yourself.
Yes.
Businesswoman.
Yes.
Well-read,
Yes.
gifted, talented.
Yes.
But you're single. And that's by choice?
I don't think it is by choice. I think it's by the fact that it's very, very hard to find someone to date when you're in your 60s. Because there's a lot of things that come into play, right? Cash, children, right? And count. And the count is, I can't date anybody who's 40. I have a son who's almost 40.
So the numbers do matter. So age is more than a number.
Right. Age is definitely more than a number. And so, you have that whole dynamic. If you're out and there's a gentleman who decides to say something to you, you say, so, how old are you? 47, really?
Can't do it, huh?
It's real nice meeting you. And so then you have to go to the next person. And then you have the dynamic, if our good friend told us it's 10 years down and 3 years up. You remember that conversation?
Absolutely.
So you really want to focus on trying to be somewhere in the middle. And you want to focus, and let's just put it out there, in a certain dynamic, we talked about that.
Yes. So
what men my age are not as active.
So when you look at the pool, so to speak.
It's small,
So the pool is small, so that becomes challenging. Tell me what the average first date
is like
of a person who is 60 and above. What does it look like?
Well, the first time, for the first 3 years, you don't date because you're like a deer in headlights.
Right.
Really?
Right.
You want me to go out and sit with somebody else and and have dinner and
once you've healed from the divorce, you're ready to.
Right.
And what does that first date look
like?
The
first date was here in Maitland, actually.
Okay.
With an attorney, and I was 15 minutes late because I was coming from Palm Coast.
Okay.
And I sat down at the table, and he got on the phone for 15 minutes.
Ah, no good for you.
Right. Yeah, it was done. So I ate very well, and I left. So, that was the first time.
Okay.
And so I said, I can try this again. And
okay.
so I'm more of a person who likes to communicate.
Okay.
So I'll talk on the phone for a long time
before the initial
dinner.
Now, dating over 60 and I'm not asking you to speak for the entire age group, but is there a situation where some people are looking for companionship and then some people just want some company?
Right. You have to get that right from the conversation starts. What is it that you're looking for?
No time to waste.
Yeah, listen. I got more time behind me than I have ahead of me, right? So what are you looking for? I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste mine, right? And so usually the first thing is I'm looking for a wife. Well, I'm not trying to be anybody's wife. So that ends that conversation. You just kind of just say, okay, well, that's wonderful.
So you don't want a relationship that ends in marriage?
No, not at this point.
And you know that?
And I know that.
And that's important?
It's very important.
That's important.
Right now. It may be different at 75.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you rejected a man because he did want to ultimately?
Not ultimately. We could talk about ultimately.
Okay.
We're talking about like right now.
Right now, first day. This is what I want.
This is what I want. Like, dude, no, I don't want to get married.
What's the fear, if there are any?
The fear is that you put it all on the table and it gets taken away again.
Wow.
Right? All cards on the table and you still don't win.
Okay.
That's a fear.
Define
right?
winning.
Winning is making it work forever. You know, like they say, you know, till death do us part, right? That's what you want. But I don't think that that's easy to find, right? So when you put it all on the table, it's hard when it's taken away again.
When we come back, I want to talk about all the different variables,
Okay.
children,
Yes.
career, and that type of thing.
All right.
We'll be right back
Thank you.
on Better Relationships. Let's head back to the Better Relationships Q&A corner. Here's a question from Lisa from Dallas. I stopped speaking with my dad 10 years ago because he said something that was so painful and hurtful. I walked away from him. It's been 10 years, I've moved on, gotten married, and I have a 5-year-old. My 5-year-old is asking for grandpa and grandma, what's the best approach? Wow, Lisa, it's been 10 years, it's time. I wish I could tell you that you're going to feel better about it initially, but you won't. But the relationships have to matter more than the issue. Do it for yourself. Don't do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. You and your father need that reconciliation. Now, here's some of the things that can help you reconcile. Number one, admit that it hurts, which you have. But secondly, admit that everybody deserves forgiveness, especially your dad. Forgive. Decide that I want to forgive. Also, decide that the context in which the injury happened, you'll never be able to go back and erase it. Some people only are able to forgive if they're able to erase and eliminate what happened. You're not going to be able to erase it. It hurt you. You've got to overcome that and recognize that, guess what? It's worth it because that's your dad, and it's worth it because it's your child's grandfather. Get it done. It'll matter. You can do it. It may do a little bit to your ego at first, because a lot of times we hold out forgiving because we don't want the other person to feel like they got the best of us. Guess what? Throw away the issue, concentrate on the relationship. Thanks, Lisa. Welcome back to Better Relationships. I'm Derek Triplett, and we're talking about dating over 60 with Donna Banks. Before the break, we talked about the different variables.
Okay.
If you're over 60, you've got your money, you've got your career, you've got your business, you've got your children. Let's start there. How does that dynamic work when mama or grandmama says, this is Mr. Willie?
Right. Of course, your children want you to be married to the same person forever.
Forever.
Because everybody has that, you know.
Every child
Yes.
wants his or her
Right,
parents,
to be married,
biological
right,
parents, to
to
be together
married
forever.
Right. And so I have a 31-year-old son who still thinks he's Opie, you know,
Okay.
living in Mayberry,
Okay.
yeah, but he just thinks that daddy's on vacation, right?
Right, he's
So,
coming back.
He's coming back. And so we've had those conversations, and I don't think that most people have those conversations with their children, adult
Okay.
children, right? And you think that they're past it until you have a conversation. And you say, well, you say things like, did you talk to dad? Well, no,
Right.
I didn't.
And he's like, why?
Well, why? Yeah. And so I think every relationship has that problem.
Okay.
If you're a widow and you have female children, you don't live up to the standard. Whatever that standard is, right?
Daddy's girls.
Right? And so, you know, I don't cook macaroni and cheese and greens, and I don't do any of that. So
Okay.
that's a problem at the gate, right?
Okay.
So, you know, it has to do with the children. It has to do with grandchildren.
Right.
You know, it has to do with cash,
Okay.
right?
Let's talk about the dynamics of money.
Right.
Because at this point, you've got savings, you've got investments, you've got all of that, and you're trying to merge that with someone else potentially. When does that conversation come up?
It comes up about 9 months in, I would say, a year, right? Because
Okay.
by that time you kind of know whether it's going to go further, and it's at a lower level than that.
Okay.
Do you move in my house or do I move in your house?
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that the closest I've got was, no, we can't move in each other's houses because it's my house.
Right.
Because it's your house.
Right.
Right. And it's because my thing is sitting right there and I don't want you to move
Right.
it.
And it belongs there.
And it belongs to me.
Right.
And why are you moving it? Right. So you have to get past that. And
Because you're a visitor.
Right.
You're a perpetual visitor.
Right. You're always a visitor in my home. And so you have to get with somebody who knows that you have to uproot wherever you are and we have to start again.
Give me a couple deal breakers from jump.
Oh, smoking.
Smoking is a deal breaker.
Definitely
Okay.
a deal breaker.
Okay.
Smacking while you eat is a deal breaker. I don't have a whole lot. Smoking, I can't stand smoking.
But the smacking while you eat brings on the issue. I can't let that one fly.
I can't stand
but
it.
it brings on the issue.
Yeah.
The older we get,
Right, we smack? No.
the older we get, the less tolerance that we have for
Right.
certain things.
Right,
We just
exactly.
like certain things and we dislike certain things. So he could have the right money, the right disposition, love God, all of that.
yeah.
But that's smacking.
Yeah, that's
you
just-
gotta go.
I don't know. I think you could work on that, but I think that's an issue from the beginning, right?
Okay.
At dinner. The other deal breaker would be, I believe that I have to have my own space.
Space.
So wherever that is that we are together, recognize that I need space and you need space. Whatever that is. I'm a writer, and so there are times when I have to disconnect from you and everything else.
Wow.
And my former husband didn't understand that. You cannot write and be a part of everything
that's going
right,
on.
Everything that's going on.
We've got about 5 seconds.
Okay.
Are you hopeful?
I'm forever hopeful. Yes, I think that there's someone out there for me, for everybody. But we have to kind of let our guard down a little bit. I think my guard is a little too high, right? And so I'm,
Okay.
I'm like a deer in headlights from the beginning.
Okay.
So let your guard down and put your cards on the table.
Well, when he shall appear,
Yes.
we're going to bring the two of you back.
Yes,
All right.
yeah, come
Thank
back.
you for being
Thank you
here.
for having
we'll
me.
be right back on Better Relationships. Let's go back over to the Better Relationship Q&A corner. Here's a question from Marlon from Illinois. I'm in a difficult situation. I love my girlfriend, but she's ready to get married, and I'm not. And I'm starting to feel the pressure. What should I do? Well, Marlon, that is a difficult situation, but thank you for your honesty. And it starts right here. You are not ready to get married. It starts there, and right now it ends there. You've got to risk losing your girlfriend because you're not ready to have a wife. And the reason you're not ready to have a wife is you've stated you're not ready to be a husband. So even though she wants to get married, she's not going to get the husband that she wants because you're not ready. So have that difficult conversation. Doesn't mean that you all are going to break up. Doesn't mean that she's going to leave. But what it does mean that you'll be able to live in honesty, live in integrity. You got to take that risk, man. And let me tell you, it is better for you to wait and potentially lose her than to get married when you're not ready and that relationship collapses and crashes. Trust me, breaking up as dating people is totally different than divorce. Thanks for your question. I hope I helped. Wow, dating is tough. It can be difficult, but it's so satisfying if you're prepared. Whether you're in your 30s, whether you're in your 60s, it can be difficult, but it can be satisfying. Make sure you know whether you want company or whether you want a companion. Those are two different things. And be forthright, be honest with whomever you're dating to let them know what you're looking for. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being single if you really, really in your heart want to be single. But if you don't, take the risk. Be vulnerable. Be prepared. Find what's out there. It's possible. There's potential for you. Don't give up if that's what you really want. I'm Derek Triplett. This is Better Relationships, and it gets better from here. My work is not possible without the support of a tremendous family. We are not a perfect family, We have our scars and our stains. But being a triplet is a great honor to me, and I take pride in it. I want to thank my wife, my children, my parents, and my brother and sisters for their support and their encouragement. I also have some close friends who really want to see me win. I want to thank them for helping to keep me going. Without them, I couldn't be here for you. We're headed back to the Q&A corner right here on Better Relationships. Here's a question from Mark, and he's from North Miami. I haven't been dating in a while. I wanted to get myself together, but now I want to start back dating. Any clues on what I should expect? Well, Mark, I really can't tell you what you should expect, but I can tell you you do need to prepare. Look at what you want to get out of the dating process. Look at who you are. Who will you be presenting? You want to present your best self. A lot of people talk about living their best life, but they don't want to be their best selves. Be your best self. Present that. Also, recognize that it's going to be a little awkward at times. But also, remember that it is a woman's right to reject you. So if somebody says no to you, Mark, don't take it personally. Don't get bent out of shape. And don't start calling her out her name because she said no to you. Make sure that you recognize that rejection is a possibility. But get yourself together. Know what you want in the person that you're dating. Know who you want to be in the process of the date. And then put your best foot forward. See how it goes. It's going to be hit or miss, but I think you'll have an enjoyable time. I hope that helps.